Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday and welcome. So, as you can see, what are we doing today? Ouch, 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 ouch. So, today we're talking about yoga a little bit. So, welcome everybody. This is lesson 4, conversation 4 with our silly personality. And our silly personality goes out with your friend Sam and goes shopping for some stuff for yoga. It's time to make a change. You're starting to look old. Maybe you look like me, getting some crow's feet. These are called crow's feet, like 乌鸦的脚, the bird, the crow, and then their feet, chung chung chung. So maybe you're like me and you're starting to look a little bit older, so you need to take care of yourself and start to exercise. So what's a good thing to do? Maybe you can do some yoga. I don't know. So you and your friend Sam go out shopping for yoga stuff, and things don't go exactly as planned, right? Pretty much what happens when you're acting pretty silly, right? And you go into this hippie store and take a look at a few things. You have your singing bowls, right? And then you go dong and scare the heck out of your friend Sam. Oh, geez, not so loud. And then you're looking at some other weird spiritual hippie stuff, right? Maybe clothes with lots and lots of colors and maybe some weird stuff like pants that or like dresses for men and stuff. I don't know. Lots of crazy stuff in some yoga stores sometimes. But some yoga stores keep it pretty normal, right? And then you try on your yoga pants and oops, you ate a burrito at Bob's stand earlier today and rip the pants. Oops, you break it, you buy it, I guess, right? So having a little bit of fun with going to a yoga store. Have any of you tried yoga? I did yoga for about a year, but I was not very good at it. I'm a little bit too awkward and crazy and bumping into stuff and falling down and scared the teacher a few times. Oh my God, are you okay? But it's fun. Yoga's fun. So have you tried it? If you do, maybe you can teach us some moves, like teach us how to do a handstand or a headstand and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting, right? So I think a few people are in here. Oh, Ginny says, nice shirt. Thank you, Ginny. It's my NASA shirt, the space shuttle. And kind of like old school style, old-fashioned colors from maybe the 1980s or something. And hi, Jean, welcome. So let's get right into it. We have our lesson 4, conversation 4, where you're out shopping and you find some yoga stuff, right? And through our lessons, we learned some pretty useful patterns and ideas. So the first one we learned about was the past perfect tense. Now, grammar can feel kind of complicated. Oh my gosh, there's past, then there's present perfect, now there's past perfect? What does that mean? Well, don't worry so much about the names of these things, but this is a tool, right? It's a tool for telling stories to people. So past perfect is great for telling stories about what already happened, right? So something happened in the past. Maybe something happened yesterday. There was one thing. But maybe you want to tell something happened before that. Then you can use the past perfect. Like, oh, yesterday I went to IKEA. Oh, okay. Why did you go to IKEA? Oh, I had decided I needed to buy a new desk. Okay? So it can help tell a story and explain what happened before another thing. And sometimes that can show why something happened. So I had decided to buy a new table before I went to IKEA. Something like that. So this is good for telling stories, okay? Or if someone spoke to you and you're telling someone else. So I'm telling this guy, hey, the boss told me that you had forgotten your report, so you need to hurry up and finish it, or something like that. So it's always about telling stories about what already happened. And so this is just a tool to show what happened before another thing. And it seems complicated, and sometimes you're like, oh, can't I just use past tense for everything? It's like, yeah, you could sometimes, but the past perfect makes it more clear what came first, okay? So it's just another tool for showing what happened before now, okay? So we had the past perfect, and then we had if sentences using the past perfect, okay? So talking about imagining what might have happened before. It's like, oh, if I had blah, 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 then I would have blah, 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 okay? And then we also talked about what happened before and what you feel like you should have done. So usually should by itself is used for something you should do now or in the future. But if you want to talk about what you should have done before, we need to use what we learned here in this lesson, okay? So like, oh, I did something bad yesterday. I should have done something good, okay? So that kind of thing. All of these are different tools to talk about what happened before. Like, in talking about the past is very, very common, right? We're not really talking about right now a lot of the time. A big part of telling people about your life is explaining the past. So using these kinds of ideas can help you explain about your life and what you have been doing, right? Okay. Let's start with Lesson 4, Conversation 4, Part 2. And the first sentence is,我到餐厅前已经有很多人排队了. Okay. You went to a restaurant. Remember, this is before, in the past. You went to a restaurant, and when you got there, oh my gosh, so many people. So I would translate this sentence as, before I got to the restaurant, a lot of people had already lined up. Okay, so our verb is had lined up. Before I got to the restaurant, a lot of people had already lined up. The first part of it is before I got to the restaurant. Now, you could say arrived, before I arrived at the restaurant. But in spoken English, when you go to a place to show that you arrived somewhere, in spoken English, it's more common to use the word got, like I got to the restaurant, or I got to the store, or I got to the school, okay? You can say arrived, but arrived is a bit more formal sounding, okay? So it depends who you're speaking to. But day-to-day English, got is okay, okay? Before I got to the restaurant, a lot of people had already lined up. This part was a little bit tricky for people because they didn't know how to start this part of the sentence. So when you're speaking in English or writing in English, it's always best to have an active sentence, which is a what is it? 主动句子, an active sentence, instead of a passive sentence, a 被动句子. So an active sentence has a has a person as the subject doing something, okay? So a lot of people had already lined up, okay? And if we're using the past perfect, it's usually going to be an active sentence like this with people doing something, okay? Or someone doing something. If you start with there or it to talk about the situation, it's a little bit less common to use the past perfect here. So there were a few people who wrote things like, there had been a line already, or there had been many people in line. Things like that. this one I think is better if you start with people as the main idea. So a lot of people, and what did they do? A lot of people had already lined up, okay? A few people wrote had been in line. So before I got to the restaurant, a lot of people had been in line. Now, if you say they had been in line, it sounds a little bit different. It sounds like before they had been in line, but then when you got there, they weren't there anymore. Does that make any sense? So before I got to the restaurant, people had been in line. So they had been in line, but that was before I got to the restaurant. So the timing, the sentence sounds like they had been in line, but then I got to the restaurant here, which is after that. So that was already over. That's what it sounds like, okay? So it's better to focus on the action of them lining up. So people had already lined up, okay? I also saw a couple people write, people had been online. Now, online, if you write it as one sentence, it means on the internet. Like right now, we are online. But two words, online, can mean the same thing as in line. But that's pretty much only used in New York. In New York, people will say waiting online. But in the rest of the United States, people will say waiting in line. And then in England, people will use the word queue. So people had queued up, okay? I also saw a sentence that looked like this. Before I went to the restaurant, there were already many people in the line. So this sentence is perfectly fine. So before I went to the restaurant, there were already many people in line. And that's totally perfect. The grammar is fine, and you're using the past simple. And for this sentence, and many of these sentences, you can use the past simple. And it's just like, this happened in the past, this happened in the past. And that's totally fine. But of course, because the target idea is past perfect, I want you to use that. And the past perfect makes it more clear what happened first. So before I got to the restaurant, a lot of people had already lined up, okay? It makes it clear that they lined up before I got there, okay? Now, next up is 你告诉我这件事之前，我早就知道了. You told me something, and it's not a surprise to me. So I could write this two different ways. So first, closer to the Chinese, and then the second one, change it a little bit, and probably what might be a little more common, actually. So the translation that's close to the Chinese, that works, but maybe a little less common, I would say, I had already known what happened before you told me. So I had already known what happened before you told me. So that means I knew it before you told me, okay? And then another way to translate this would be, I'd already heard the news before you told me. So here, in the way I speak, I would say the second sentence probably more often or more commonly. I'd already heard the news before you told me. This might be a difference between Chinese and English and just the way people think, and that's okay. So I would say heard the news. So if you're telling me something, so this is what happened. You told me. Before that, I heard from somewhere else, okay? So in Chinese, you'd say, you told me. Before that, I knew. So I had known before you told me. In English, I think it's more natural to say, you told me. Before that, I heard, okay? So I'd already heard the news before you told me, okay? Both of them are fine. I had already known what happened before you told me. I had already heard the news before you told me. Okay? And so that's just the difference between I knew it before or I heard it before. So I had heard the news. Okay. And then 这件事 in Chinese. There are many different ways to write this. So many people said like this situation or just it or what happened. Or I used what happened, sorry. So I used what happened. So I had already heard what happened. So we don't know exactly what we're talking about in this sentence, or with no context, we don't know what the situation is. So generally, I would just say what happened. Or if it's someone's telling you something new or something they think you don't know, you can say, I've heard the news, or I'd heard the news, okay? So some of you use phrases like this thing or this whole thing, but I think it's better to use just something a little bit more general, saying what happened, or it, something like that. I had heard it before you told me, or I had heard what happened before you told me, okay? Let's keep moving on. Next up is 今天早上 Bob 告诉我他前一天梦到我了。Bob, creepy. Oh my gosh. Me? Oh, okay. Thanks, Bob. That's really nice, I guess. So, I'll give it to you two ways. The first way is with dream as a verb, dream as an action. The second way, dream as a noun, okay? So the first one, I'd say, this morning, Bob told me that he had dreamed about me the night before. Ooh, okay. Thanks, Bob. So this morning, Bob told me that he had dreamed about me the night before. So the verb is had dreamed, ed. And then second kind with dream as a noun. Okay? What verb goes with dream? Well, we say have a dream. Okay? So this morning, Bob told me that he had had a dream about me last night. I'll do it faster. This morning, Bob told me that he had had a dream about me last night. Now, that's not a typo. I didn't mess up. It is he had had a dream. Okay? So the past perfect for have is had, which sounds weird, right? But that's right. He had had a dream. Or you could contract it. So he'd had a dream. He'd had a dream. Or he had had a dream. Oh, it's tricky for me too. So if it's tricky for you, it's okay. Oh, okay. So he had dreamed about me. In American English, we commonly use ed for the PP verb for dream. He had dreamed about me. Now, in British English, they use a T instead of an ed. He had dreamt about me. Okay? So here, he had dreamed about me, or he had dreamt about me. Both are okay. Depends how you want to say it. And they're both okay in America or England. So if you say he had dreamt about me to an American, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Difference is very unimportant. It's not important. Okay? And then he had dreamed about me. You could also say he dreamed of me. And like we've learned before, dreamed about and dreamed of are very similar. So both are okay. And for 前一天, I said the night before. So this morning, and then the night before. So the night before just means for this sentence, the night before is the same as last night. So if it's today, we have last night, okay? And then today, you could also say the night before. It's the same meaning. But if we're talking about the past, like saying, oh, on Saturday, I felt tired. Like, oh, why? Well, the night before, I didn't get enough sleep. Okay? So if we're talking about today, you can say last night. If we're talking about the past, you would say the night before. Okay? Let's see. Jean asked a good question. What's the difference between dream about and dream of? Well, so for the verb dream, dream about and dream of are actually usually the same meaning or very, very close in meaning. So we had a lesson where we learned about versus of. We learned know about, know of, think about, think of, hear about, hear of. And we also talked about dream about and dream of. Now, dream about and dream of, usually when people use them, it's basically the same meaning. But for some of the other verbs, the other words, to hear about something or hear of something, if you use the word about, it suggests that it's for a more detail. There's more to it. And then of might be a short time. So hear about something means you hear a lot of the details. Hear of something means maybe you just heard the name. Okay? Think about something means you spend time thinking about it. Think of something, maybe you think about it, you think of it for a very short time. Ooh, I'm punching myself. So about usually suggests there's more detail and it's maybe a longer time. Of will be for a shorter time, okay? So I was thinking about what to eat for tomorrow. And so you're spending some time thinking about it. So, oh, I thought of a way to do that. Sounds like it's a little bit quicker, okay? Or I heard about the new movie. Oh, I heard that it was good. I heard about the story. Oh, I heard of that book. Meaning I heard the name, but I don't know much about it, okay? So that's the main idea, okay? So dream about, dream of, here though, basically the same, or very similar in meaning, okay? Now, one other note is I start with this morning. This morning, Bob told me that he had dreamed about me the night before. Now, I saw a few students put all of the time at the end of the sentence. Usually in English, we put time at the end of the sentence, right? So Bob told me that he had dreamed about me the night before this morning. Do you see the problem here? Now, if you keep this morning at the end of the sentence, you have two time phrases next to each other. So, or maybe Bob told me he had had a dream about me last night this morning. And so it's easy for the listener to get confused. So we take the when Bob told you and put it at the beginning, and it makes it a little bit more obvious. So this morning, Bob told me. So those are close together. He had had a dream about me last night. Those ideas are closer together, okay? So that might help you keep your sentences more clear, okay? Ginny asks, is it the same day when using the night before? Is it different with yesterday? Okay, well, when do we use the word yesterday? Let's start with that. We use the word yesterday when we're talking about today and the day before today. That's yesterday. And so starting with today, you could say last night. So last night just means yesterday's night, right? Now, if I'm talking about last month, let's say June 5th. So let's choose a random day. June 5th. That is not today. So I cannot say yesterday, right? So on June 5th, I did this. And then can I say, yesterday I did that? No, because on June 4th is not yesterday. That's a long time ago. So if we're talking about June 5th, you would say the day before. So the June 4th is the day before. So I went to the gym on June 5th. The day before, I ate pizza. Okay? And so same idea. June 5th, I went to the gym. On June 4th, at nighttime, I couldn't sleep. So you could say, on June 5th, blah, 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 the night before, I couldn't sleep. Okay? So the night before can be used for any day. Or the day before or the night before can be used for any day. Okay? Just one day or one night before a certain day. But using the word yesterday or the phrase last night, you have to start from today, yesterday, today, last night, okay? If we're talking about a long time ago, you can't say yesterday or last night. Does that make sense? Okay, it's where you're starting from. Today, yesterday, today, last night, okay? I think that's it for this one. We can keep on going. So here's sentence 4. So bye bye Bob, let's move to sentence 4. 昨天太糗了，我点晚餐的之后才发现忘记带钱包。Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So how could you say this? I would say, it was so embarrassing yesterday. After I had ordered my meal, I realized I had forgotten to bring my wallet. Oh no. So, start off with, it was so embarrassing yesterday. So, when we're talking about a situation or in general, you can start the sentence with it. It was so embarrassing with ing. Now, one thing to remember, a lot of students wrote, it was embarrassed, or something was embarrassed, or that was embarrassed. Now, embarrassed is a feeling. If it ends with ed, it's a feeling inside you. And so we use the word embarrassed to talk about how a person feels. You could say, I was embarrassed, okay? But if we're talking about the situation doesn't have feelings, so we don't use ed. If we're talking about something, if we're pointing at it, we use ing. Oh, that was embarrassing, or it was embarrassing, okay? It's just like other adjectives. I feel excited with an ed, or I watched a movie and that movie was exciting, okay? So ed is usually a feeling. ing is describing something outside of you, okay? So I feel excited. That movie was exciting. I feel bored. That book was boring, okay? So that's the first point, okay? So it was so embarrassing. That was so embarrassing. You could say, I was embarrassed with an ed. Now, then there are a few others saying, I was ashamed. Ashamed means you feel bad about what you did. Maybe you did something really not nice, and oh, I feel guilty, I feel bad, like I'm a bad guy. So ashamed is a little bit too strong for this. And then, same thing with shame. If you're talking about yourself, I feel ashamed. A few people use shame by itself, but shame is the name of that feeling. But either way, ashamed and shame are too strong for the situation. You wouldn't want to cry because you're a bad guy because of what happened at the restaurant, okay? So, it was embarrassing. And then the second part, after I had ordered my meal, I realized I had forgotten to bring my wallet. So now we have to think about the order of what happened. So after I had ordered my meal. So ordered my meal happened before you realized something. So we use past perfect. After I had ordered my meal, then after that, I realized. So after this, I realized, and then what did you realize? I realized, so before you realized it, I had forgotten to bring my wallet. Cool. So we have 3 different verbs and you're putting them in different orders. Basically, what happened before realized? Realized is in the past. Anything that was before realized has to be in past perfect. After I had ordered my meal, I had realized I had forgotten to bring my wallet, okay? So we have 1 past and then 2 things before that, okay? And then I use the word wallet, and then a wallet is anything that carries money. But you could use the word purse, but a purse is like a small bag that a woman carries. So if we're talking general, I would say wallet. A purse is a little bit bigger and just for a woman. But a purse might have a wallet inside of it too. So depends what you forgot, okay? So I realized I had forgotten to bring my wallet. That's using the past perfect tense. You could also say, I realized I forgot to bring my wallet. You could use past simple here. That's okay too. Again, the past perfect makes it more clear what came first. Okay? And then I use realize. Realize is probably the more common for something that's mental. It's in your mind. You realize something. Wow. Oops. Found is okay, but realize is better. I found that I forgot my wallet. Yeah, realize is a little bit more common than found in this one. You could use found, but realized is better, okay? And then I also saw a student write, after I ordered the meal, I realized I had forgotten my wallet. This one is okay too. Like I said before, you can use past simple for some of these verbs. Realized needs to be past simple because that's the last thing that happened. But the ones that happened before, you can use past simple, just ordered, or you could use past perfect, had ordered, okay? The had ordered just makes it clear what happened first, okay? Let's see. Let's keep on moving. Move to lesson 4, conversation 4, part 3. And this is where we're talking about something in the past, something happened, and you're thinking about how could it have been different. And we use if. Oh, if I didn't do that, or if I hadn't done that. So we could we can use the past perfect to talk about imaginary situations in the past, okay? So our first sentence is, 如果我当时鼓起勇气告白，我们可能就在一起了。Oh my gosh. So maybe you have a broken heart, or maybe there was someone that you went to high school with and you think, oh, we were just friends, but maybe it could have been more. I don't know. So this sentence you could translate to, if I had found the courage to confess my love back then, we could have been together. Oh, doki doki. You could also say, if I had had the courage to confess my love back then, we could have been together. Okay? Now, anytime we have could have, would have, should have, remember you can shorten it to could have, would have, should have. Okay? And it sounds almost like of, could have. So Just don't write could of of. A lot of people do that. They type, oh, I could have done that. Ooh, it's kind of scary looking. But because they sound almost the same, a lot of people type it the wrong way. So could have can become could have. Okay? So if I had found the courage to confess my love. So you find courage. You have courage inside your heart, and you have to find it. So I think this is the best verb to use for courage. Or you could just say, if I had the courage. Maybe you couldn't find it because you didn't have it. If I had the courage, okay? You could also say, if I had gotten the courage to confess my love, okay? Now, a lot of you found some interesting verbs for this phrase. And they are okay, they're great, but they sound very poetic, like something you might hear in a poem. And that's good. But some of the words are, when you're speaking English, sometimes like native speakers actually will usually keep it simple. So if you're writing or reading something, you might learn lots of ways to say found the courage. But when speaking, people will generally keep it kind of simple because people are thinking of what to say as they say it, right? So usually when you do that, you say the easiest thing, the first thing that comes in your head. So usually that's found the courage. Now, other ways that you guys wrote it, which are good, but they sound a little bit more fancy, we have summoned the courage. If I had summoned the courage. If I had mustered the courage. If I had plucked up my courage. Or if I had been courageous. So there are many different ways to say, like, to become more brave, okay? But generally, it's okay to keep it simple. If I had found the courage, okay? And then we talked about confess my love a couple lessons ago, right? So 告白 in English, we'd say confess my love, or told her the truth, or told her my feelings, or something like that, okay? Many different ways to say that. If I had found the courage, so using it this way means back then, maybe, and then we could have been together. So could have shows that there's a possibility. We don't know if it's true, but there's a chance. So could have says that there was a chance that it could happen. Okay? So if you use would, it sounds like you're more sure. We would have been together, meaning that like you kind of know that it would have worked. So could, you're not exactly sure if it would have worked, which is probably true. If you say would, you're sounding very confident. So we could have been together. We could have gotten together. We could have been a couple. All of these are good answers. Okay? Okay. If no questions, I'll keep moving on. And to something that maybe some of you have some feelings about. And a lot of people say this a lot of times here in Taiwan. So, 如果我没有喝那么多珍珠奶茶，就不会胖10公斤了。Oh my gosh. Oh no, too much. So, if I hadn't drunk so much bubble milk tea, I wouldn't have gained 10 kilos. You could also say, if I hadn't drunk so much boba, I wouldn't have put on 10 kilos, or kilograms, or kg. And then for bubble tea, you could also say pearl milk tea. So 珍珠奶茶 has many ways to say it. You could say bubble milk tea, boba tea, pearl milk tea. Okay? All of them are similar ways to say the same thing. Boba is a common way to say it in California. The word boba comes from boba. which you hear in Taiwan sometimes too. Okay? And so bubble milk tea, boba tea, pearl milk tea, all the same meaning. Okay? Sometimes people use the word boba to mean any kind of drink at those kinds of tea shops. Okay? So we're talking about in the past, and we're imagining if something didn't happen. So if I hadn't drunk so much. Okay? So had, not drunk. The PP verb for drink, it's drink, drank, drunk. So if I hadn't drunk. Okay? In spoken English, some people might say if I hadn't drank, because we get it mixed up sometimes. If I hadn't drank that much. But the correct way is if I hadn't drunk. Okay? Now, can we say if I didn't drink so much bubble tea? Now, we learned that before. If you use past in the if part, so if I didn't drink so much bubble milk tea, I wouldn't blah, 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 blah. That's actually talking about your habits, what you actually do now, okay? So if, then past, that's actually talking about now. If I didn't drink so much bubble tea, it's your habit, what you always do. If we're talking about before, we use the past perfect. If I hadn't drunk so much back then, okay? So be careful about that. These if phrases can be a little bit tricky. So past tense of if is just imaginary. Past perfect of if is imaginary in the past. Back over there. Why do I keep doing this? I'm going crazy. Okay. And then the second part is I wouldn't have put on 10 kilos. So we use wouldn't because it did happen. And you're imagining, oh, if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have. Okay? We don't use couldn't here because couldn't is about a possibility, but we're saying it really did happen. Okay? Then last but not least, the last part, gained 10 kilos. So you could also say, I wouldn't have put on 10 kilos. Those two are the best. I wouldn't have gained or I wouldn't have put on 10 kilos, 10 kg, 10 kilograms. I saw a few other ways of writing it. I wouldn't have gained weight for 10 kg. Now, we don't put those together. Gained weight is in general. Just, you don't want to tell how much. I gained weight. But if you know how much, or you're telling them how much, you can say, I gained 10 kilos. Okay? So don't put it together. If you have the actual number, you don't need the word weight. Okay? And then I saw a few people add the word more. I got 10 more kg, or I got 10 kg more. You don't need to say it this way. We wouldn't use got for weight. You'd use gained for weight, okay? Or put on for weight. Kind of like you're putting it on your body, okay? And then next sentence, let's keep on moving. 如果我早知道你是这么八卦的人，我之前就不会跟你说我的秘密。Yeah, this is like if you're annoyed with someone, hey, blah, 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 blah. I trusted you, and then you just told everyone. Why? It was a secret that I have 15 toes. Okay, so in English, I would say, if I had known you were such a gossip, I wouldn't have told you my secret. Now, here, this is something that maybe you guys didn't know, that the word gossip can mean a person. A person can be a gossip, okay? If I had known you were such a gossip, I wouldn't have told you my secret, okay? So, again, if I had known, we are using the past perfect because we're talking about back then. If I had known, you were such a gossip, okay? So we have to match the timing. If I had known you were such a gossip back then, okay? I wouldn't have told you my secret. So back then, I would not have told you my secret. Okay? So such a gossip. A gossip is a person who likes to tell gossip. Okay? You could also say, if I had known you gossip so much, or you were such a gossipy person. So gossipy, turn it into an adjective, gossipy person. That's okay. Saw a few people write that. Also, a person who likes to gossip. That would be okay too. If I had known you were a person who likes to gossip, I wouldn't have told you my secret. But don't forget that too. And then, I saw such a gossip person. But like I said before, if it's gossip person, gossip needs to be an adjective. Make it gossipy person. Okay? I also saw gossips person, like possessive. Gossip can't have a person. You would change that around and say a person who gossips. Okay? And then I wouldn't have told you my secret. This one needs to be I wouldn't have told you because it's back then. And so it's would have followed by the past participle. The past participle of tell is told. Okay? So you need to say I wouldn't have told you. Okay? Just because it's the situation back then. Okay? We're imagining back then. Okay? Next up is Lesson 4, Conversation 4, Part 4. Okay? This one is using should have. I should have blah, blah, blah. Meaning, back then, what do I wish I did, right? Maybe I did one thing. I wish I did something different. So we can use the word should have. I should have blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of you, well, me, and then maybe some of you, when I was in high school, I should have studied harder or something like that. And then when I got to college, I worked really hard to make up for it. So if we have regrets about it, you can use should have. Or like the sentence we had before about courage to confess my love. I should have asked her out back then. Or I should have told that person I love them. Okay? So, our first sentence is 睡过头了，昨天应该定好闹钟再睡觉的。Oops, maybe you're late for work. So, in English, I would say, I overslept. I should have set my alarm before I went to bed last night. Okay, so I overslept. So, you sleep over the time that you want to wake up. So, I overslept. I should have set my alarm before I went to bed last night. So here's what I should have done that before I went to bed. Okay? So it's saying what I wish I did. Okay? Now, I use I overslept. Overslept is usually a bad thing. You sleep too much. You sleep over the time that you want to. Okay? Now, a lot of you use the phrase slept in. I slept in. Slept in is usually used as a good thing. So, overslept means you slept too late and now you're in trouble. You're in a hurry. I overslept. Oh no. But maybe on Saturday, you have nothing to do, so you sleep in. So, I slept in on Saturday. I woke up at 11 o'clock and felt better. So sleep in usually sounds like a good thing. It's like, oh yeah, we slept in on Saturday because we had nothing to do. Okay? And then, second part, I should have set my alarm. So set my alarm. So we have an alarm, and the action for the alarm is to set the alarm. You choose the time, you set the alarm. And usually we'd say set my alarm because it's It's yours, so set my alarm. So a lot of people said set the alarm, but if we haven't talked about the alarm before, it's better to say my first. I should have set my alarm. Okay? A lot of you also use the word set up. So to set up an alarm means to like get it ready, or so like you set up your desk, like you put things around in the right place, you get it ready to work. But for an alarm, we set the alarm, we don't set it up, okay? Set up means more of like changing settings and getting it ready for something. While set it just means you choose the time, okay? Next up, that one was, oh, hold on. And the end of it, before I went to bed last night. You could also say before going to bed, or before going to sleep, or before bed. Just keep it simple, before bed, okay? And then I did see a couple of people say, I should have set my alarm and went to bed. Well, you did go to bed. So if you say, I should have set my alarm and went to bed, it sounds like you never went to bed. So it's better to say before going to bed, or before I went to bed, okay? Next. Second sentence is 你应该要通知大家会议延期的，现在怎么办? Oh my gosh. So maybe people are showing up at the office, but it's the wrong time. It's like, oh no, you didn't tell them we moved it. So you didn't tell everyone that the meeting is next week. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So you should have told everyone that the meeting was postponed. What do we do now? You could also say, what should we do? Both are okay. So you should have told everyone that the meeting was postponed. So like I said before, should have. In spoken English, we usually put it together and it becomes should have. You should have told everyone that the meeting was postponed. Postponed meaning pushed to a later day or later time. What do we do now? Oh my gosh. So you should have told everyone. So I'm telling you, it would have been the right thing to do. Back then, you should have told them, but you didn't. Okay? You could also use the phrase were supposed to. You were supposed to have told everyone. That means if you use supposed to here, that means maybe everyone expected them to do it. So maybe the boss told your coworker, send a message to everyone, and then they forgot. So, oh, you were supposed to have done that. You were supposed to have told everyone the meeting was postponed, okay? Whew, some of these verbs get complicated. So when you have a long phrase like that, you were supposed to have told everyone that the meeting was postponed. Yes, that's correct. The grammar is fine. You were supposed to have told everyone that the meeting was postponed, but sometimes shorten it. So you should have. You should have told everyone. So in spoken English, we usually will go with the shorter phrase, okay? A few of you used just should. You should tell everyone. That would mean right now you should tell everyone. But if we're talking about the past, it has to be you should have told them, okay? And then spoken English, just use told, and that's good enough. I saw a lot of students use informed and notified, and those are perfectly fine. Those are actually probably better words than told, but they sound more formal. So you might see informed or notified in an email, but spoken English, people will use told. You should have told everyone. You should have notified everyone. You should have informed everyone. Both are fine, but spoken English, we'd stick with told, okay? And then, what do we do now? What do we do now? In fast English, what do we do now? What do we do now? Okay? You could also say, what should we do now? And then you could also say, now what? So now what? Meaning like, I don't know. Now what do we do? Now what? Okay? So if you have some of these answers, great job. Many different ways to write the same idea. What do we do now? Okay. Next up is 鲍勃面试不应该迟到的，他应该会被刷掉. Oh, poor Bob. You got to be more responsible. So, Bob shouldn't have been late to his interview. He probably won't get the job. Now, that's kind of the opposite of idea of what's in the Chinese, right? Why? I'll get to that in a second. You could also say, Bob shouldn't have been late to his interview. He'll probably get rejected. That's closer to the Chinese. Now, let's go piece by piece. Bob shouldn't have been late to his interview. You could also say late for his interview. Both are the same. Late to his interview, meaning late arriving to his interview. He shouldn't have been late for the interview, meaning like for this thing. And so to suggests when he's going there. For suggests the interview is the reason. Okay? But in reality, it's basically the same. You shouldn't have been late to or for are both okay. And then our verb should be, he shouldn't have been late. We need that have been. So late is an adjective. You can't use it as a verb. So he shouldn't have been late. Okay? Describing Bob. I also saw he shouldn't have delayed. But delayed is usually you delay something. If a person is late, we don't use the word delay. We use delay for a thing. Maybe a project was delayed, okay? Now, the second part, the first part, everybody had a pretty good time with. Bob shouldn't have been late to his interview or to the interview. The second part was kind of tricky, actually. 他应该会被刷掉. So, kind of like, this is Bob, and you go, bye-bye, Bob. So in English, you could say, he'll probably get rejected, meaning that the company will say no to him. He'll probably get rejected. Sorry, no. But in English, we actually would usually do it the opposite way. We're focusing on Bob trying to get the job. We're not focusing on the company talking about Bob. So he will get rejected is focusing on what the company is doing to Bob. But in English, it's actually, for job searches, we'd focus more on what the person is doing. Bob probably won't get the job. So focus on him trying to get that job, but he probably won't get it. So in English, it's more common to say something like that. He probably won't get the job because he's trying to get it. And we're not thinking about the company rejecting him as much, because usually the company just won't answer you. They don't send you a letter saying, sorry, you didn't get the job. Not anymore. Now the company just never talks to you again. They don't send out emails saying sorry anymore, right? If you've done a job search recently, it's pretty frustrating. You're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you never hear anything. Okay. Ginny asks, is delay similar to postpone? Postpone is focusing on the action. I postpone something. And then delay is focused on that thing is delayed. It's so postpone is I am changing the time for that thing. And then delay is saying that thing will be late. So the postpone is like an action that a person does. And then delay is what happens to the thing. Okay? the meaning is very similar, but it's based on who's doing what. Is someone doing it? Then it's postponed. Is it happening to a thing? Then it's delayed. The movie was delayed. I postponed the meeting. Okay? So they're similar in meaning. Okay? Now, back to the he'll probably get rejected, saying, get out of here. Sorry, Bob. Some people use fail. Bob will probably fail. Here we don't use fail. Fail means like to do bad at something. Usually it's used for something like a test. He failed the test, but not really for a job interview. Some people said he will be dismissed. Dismissed sounds like you're telling him to go away. Maybe he's at the company and he has the meeting with the company, and then the company says, oh, Bob, you're dismissed, meaning you can go home. Okay? And then I also saw the word eliminate. He'll probably be eliminated. Eliminated, yes, it means like 刷掉, but it's a little bit too serious. It sounds like someone in a game gets eliminated from the game, or eliminated can actually mean to kill someone. So the bad guys eliminated their enemies. Ooh, kind of scary. So eliminated sounds a little more serious. Okay? So I would say he won't get the job. He will probably get rejected. One of those two. Okay? I saw someone say he shouldn't not get an offer. So this is, you could use the phrase get an offer, but you have to be careful about your verb. You could say he probably won't get an offer. So get an offer from the company. But if you say he should not get an offer, you don't want that double not. It gets confusing. And here we wouldn't use shouldn't. You'd use won't. He won't get an offer. Okay? Next up, 你最好没有忘记带钱哦。我们吃了超多. So maybe you're at a fancy restaurant with a table full of lots and lots of food, and you could say this to your friend. And you can say, you'd better not have forgotten to bring money. We ate a ton. So the plates are on the table, all the food is gone. You'd better not have forgotten to bring money. We ate a ton. So first things first, as I've said a million times, 2 sentences. Okay? There's a comma in Chinese, but these are 2 ideas, so we need a period. Okay? If you want a comma, you need connecting words, but there are no connecting words here, so put a period. Okay? So you had better not have forgotten to bring money. Oh, that's a complicated phrase, right? You'd better not have forgotten to bring money. Okay? So you'd better not is the warning. Have forgotten is what I'm warning you. I hope you didn't do. And you had better not have forgotten what? To bring money. Okay? And we're at the restaurant, and so we use the word bring. Don't use take. Take means you're going somewhere. So bring here. Okay? And then forgotten to bring. So we want just the base verb bring. You don't want brought. If it's after to, it should be to bring. We never have to brought. Okay? So after the word to, you don't put a past tense verb. Okay? And then before forgotten, remember to use the word have. So had better not have forgotten. So in this, we're talking about past tense. So had better not have blah, blah, blah. So we had and have here. Okay? And then to bring money, because in Chinese it just says 带钱. I also saw a few people use the word wallet. You could use that in this sentence or in this situation. You forgot to bring your wallet. You forgot to bring money. Both are the same. And then the last part, we ate a ton, or we ate a lot, or we ate too much. Anything's fine. And you could also use the present perfect. A few people did that. We have eaten so much. So we ate and we have eaten are basically the same meaning in this situation. We ate a ton, we've eaten a ton, or we've eaten so much. Okay, both are okay. Let's move on to our crazy story of the yoga store. A singing bowl. A singing bowl, it's like you have a stick and a bowl and it goes, ee. They sound kind of nice, but if you hit it, it might be too loud. Maybe scare Sam. And then, if you're feeling kind of chubby from eating a big burrito, maybe you shouldn't try size S. Maybe you'll rip the shorts or rip the pants. Oops. So be careful if you're eating too much and trying on clothes, okay? Okay, so here we have a few sentences, and it's mostly practicing our grammar, right? And so our first sentence is, 如果我没有熬夜追剧，我今早就会睡过头了. Okay. So this is pretty common for a lot of people. Maybe you found a really good show on Netflix and you just can't stop watching it. So I might say, if I hadn't stayed up late binge watching shows, I wouldn't have overslept this morning. So if I hadn't stayed up late binge watching shows, I wouldn't have overslept this morning. Okay? So we're imagining what could have happened back then. So the first part is, if I hadn't stayed up late. So back then, I did stay up late, but I'm imagining if I didn't. If I hadn't stayed up late, then what would have happened? Okay? If I hadn't stayed up late, 熬夜 is stayed up late. Now, a few people said if I hadn't too late or something like that, but you want to focus on staying up late, staying awake, staying up, okay? If I hadn't stayed up late, doing what? Because doing something, we say binge watching shows. Now, binge watch is a verb. It's an action. Binge watching shows. To binge watch means to watch it and just keep them coming. Don't stop. You binge watch shows. You could also say binge watch TV shows or binge watch dramas. Or if it's a movie, you could say binge watch films, okay? Usually binge watch is for a drama or a TV show because you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The story continues and you can't stop, okay? Now, you don't have to use the phrase binge watch. You could just say watching dramas, okay? But binge watch suggests you just kept on going, you didn't stop, and maybe you couldn't stop, okay? And if you use another verb, make sure the order is right. If I hadn't stayed up watching films. So the focus is hadn't stayed up first, okay? And then the second part, I wouldn't have overslept this morning. Now, like I said before, overslept means you slept too late, and it's a bad thing. If you say slept in, that's usually a good thing because you have nothing to do and you're relaxed. I want to sleep in, okay? So I wouldn't have overslept. And oversleep is a verb, so I wouldn't have overslept, okay? And we use wouldn't because it did happen, and we're imagining if it hadn't. So I wouldn't have overslept. Now, you don't want to use shouldn't have because shouldn't have is maybe you feel bad about doing it. That would be used in a different kind of sentence, like, oh, I shouldn't have overslept. Now I'm late for work, okay? But in this sentence, wouldn't is better, okay? And then remember, it's overslept, one word. To sleep over is a different meaning. That means to sleep at a different person's house. Maybe you sleep at your friend's house, so you sleep over. Okay? But oversleep means you sleep too late. We talked about that a long time ago. One of the earlier lessons, I think. Okay. Next up is 你来开会前最好已经准备好资料了. Okay. This one was actually a little bit tricky because of the words 资料 and how to translate that into English. Now, because we don't really know what you're talking about, you could use many different words for that. But my first thought for English would be to say, you had better have prepared your materials before you came to the meeting. Okay, so imagining we're in the meeting now. So we have, you came to the meeting, and then before that, you had better have prepared your materials. So you had better have prepared your materials before you came to the meeting. Because if you're not ready, you're in big trouble, okay? So then the word 资料, I said, is materials, because generally that's stuff you have, like stuff with maybe papers and documents or reports, your materials. It's very general. Now, if we want to be more focused, you could say information, or you could say data, D-A-T-A, or documents, okay? If you say something like all your things, that's a little too general, I think, but it could be okay. You had better have prepared all of your things before you came to the meeting. But materials, information, documents, data, your report, something like that, okay? And then you had better have prepared. So prepared means to get something ready. Prepare something, prepared your materials. If you want to use the word ready, so ready is not a verb, so you cannot say you had better have ready your materials. That's not okay. You could say you had better have gotten your materials ready. That would be okay, gotten your materials ready. But prepared is one word that does the same meaning, so it's better to use prepared, okay? Let's see. And then I said before you came to the meeting, because we're doing one thing, came to the meeting, and then before that, you had better have prepared, okay? And then if you don't want that verb, came to the meeting, you could just say before the meeting. So you had better have prepared your materials before the meeting, okay? Both are fine. Next up, 我在做完简报前，老板已经生气走掉了. Oh, you're in big trouble. So we're talking about the past, so something in the past, before now, and then the boss did something before that. So which will have the past perfect? Well, the boss. That happened first. Okay. So before I finished giving my presentation, blah, 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 my boss had already stormed off. So we're talking about when you finished it, and then before that, my boss had already stormed off. Okay? Stormed off means to walk away angrily. Okay? So you could say this another way. Before I finished giving my presentation, my boss had already angrily walked away. Okay? So before I finished giving my presentation. If it's a presentation, we use the verb giving. Okay? I also saw people use the phrase finished the briefing. A briefing is a little bit different than a presentation. Presentation means you're presenting things, you're showing things. A briefing is you're giving a short report. Both of those would be okay, but it changes the meaning a little bit. Presentation, you're showing everyone something. A briefing means you're telling them something kind of short. Okay? And then, what did the boss do? My boss had already stormed off. To storm off means to walk away in an angry way. Walked angrily away, or angrily walked away. Okay? And then you could also say it other ways. my boss had gotten angry and left. Or, yeah, had angrily walked away. And we'd use angrily as an adverb to describe walked. He angrily walked away. He walked away angrily. Okay? And then, again, you could just use past simple tense. Before I finished giving my presentation, my boss stormed off, or my boss walked away angrily. You could use past simple, right? Just if you use past perfect, it makes it clear which came first. Okay. One question before we move on. The question is, could I say left angrily? My boss had left angrily. Yeah, that works. He had left angrily. But if we're using the word angrily, kind of, it would fit better with a word that's focused on his action, the way he's moving, because angrily describes the way someone's moving. So like walked angrily or stormed off angrily or something like that. It sounds a little bit better. So left is fine. Okay. Oops, I'm hitting things again. Hopefully not messing up the sound. Okay, last but not least, 你应该准备的更完善. Whatever, you get it. You can read it. So, keep it simple. This is what you could say for me about practicing my Chinese. Oh, Kyle, practice your Chinese more before the stream. And you're crazy. So in English, you could say, you should have prepared better. Okay? So you should have prepared better. Should have, squish it together, and it sounds like should have. You should have prepared better. Okay? Now, in Chinese, 更完善. There's not really a good way to translate this into English. So the Chinese word, you can simplify it in English to just better. So you should have prepared better. Okay? So if you looked up 完善 in your dictionary, which I did to double check and be like, is there a better way to say this? There are a lot of different ways that 完善 is written to describe what this means. But if you use some of those, like well prepared or more perfect or complete or something like that, it actually makes it too complicated. So if you use the dictionary to change these words word by word, sometimes it can make it actually more awkward in English. So if you did it like the dictionary said, you could say, you should have prepared more perfectly, or something like that. And it just sounds a little bit awkward. And this is my advice to you guys. Like, so we're on our last sentence. And so there are a lot of people who wrote things like prepare to complete, prepare more well prepared, prepare more perfect, something like that. But it's better if you just said, you should have prepared better, or you should have gotten better prepared. And so if you see a word like this, 完善, if you look it up in your dictionary, you start to think, okay, I need to put this into my English sentence. And sometimes that can actually that can cause problems for your English. If you're trying to take a Chinese word and squeeze it into an English sentence, it can actually kind of slow you down and mess you up. So there are a lot of times when we're going from the Chinese into the English, and there will be a word in the Chinese version of the sentence. And we get to that word, and there are many, kind of like what we had before, if I had found the courage, 鼓起勇气. And a lot of you, like, I'm not trying to say you did a bad job. Everyone did great. But when we get to a phrase like that in Chinese, like 鼓起勇气, or here 完善, or there was another one, 资料. Sometimes if we look these things up in the dictionary will tell us something that might be the perfect translation for that one word, okay? And sometimes that's what you want, and sometimes it works perfectly in your English sentence. But then sometimes, like the 鼓起勇气, if you take that phrase from the dictionary and put it into your English sentence, just cut and paste, it can be okay, but sometimes it can make your English too complicated. It might be too perfectly translating. We're not trying to perfectly translate the words from Chinese to English. We're trying to translate the ideas from Chinese to English, okay? So we're trying to take the way of thinking and putting it into English. So you don't need to always focus directly on one word that might be in the Chinese version of these sentences, okay? So this is something that some of you can think about when you're trying to do this homework. You don't always need to include every word. So here, 完善. I like kind of just get rid of it and 更完善, just change it to 更好. Because in English, you should have prepared better. If we keep it simple, it actually sounds better, sounds more natural, okay? So my advice to you is if you're looking things up in the dictionary, sometimes the dictionary will give you a very, very exact, perfect translation of that word or phrase. And that's great, and that's a good way to learn, but sometimes when we're trying to get natural English sentences or natural English speaking, it can make your English too complicated. So I want you to try to think of the idea, think of the situation, and think of, okay, have I heard people say it this way before? Or have I just been translating Chinese to English? So anytime you take these sentences from Chinese to English, try to think about, have I heard anyone speak this way before? And, or like, does it sound too complicated? Or is this a brand new word for me? If it's a brand new word, maybe you could switch it out for easier words that you're more comfortable with. And if you do that, you might not lose any of the meaning. It might sound the same. It might actually sound more natural using simple words. Does that make any sense? So, okay, I'm talking too much, but for something like this, if we have a word that there's not really a good way to translate it, sometimes you don't need to. Just use words you know already to show the same feeling, the same idea. 讲英文的 few. Okay? So this sentence, you should have prepared better. And keep it simple. Like I say to a lot of my students, and I've probably told you, keep it simple, stupid. So if you're thinking too much, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Don't think too much, just keep it simple, and it's probably going to be okay. Okay? So hopefully that helps. I want you guys to, yes, you can use a dictionary to look up words and phrases, but sometimes it's better just go with what feels natural, go with what feels good. It doesn't always have to be the exact translation, okay? Now, we're pretty much to the end. So in my little post to announce our stream today, I put in a little chance for you to practice some of the grammar you tried here. So I would love it if some of you could go back and leave a comment and try to use the past perfect tense to talk about your own experiences. Have you ever tried yoga? Oh, I had tried yoga because my friend told me it was fun. So it's always going to be there's one idea and then an idea before it, okay? So try your best and see if you can use some of the ideas we learned here to talk about your own life, your own experience. And because that's why we're learning this, right? To tell stories, to express yourself, okay? So I'd love to see some comments from you guys. And yeah, feel free to leave more questions whenever you have them. And you can leave questions in the notes for each individual lesson or in the notes for this stream. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Sometimes it doesn't pop up right away, but I'll check back once in a while and try to answer your questions. So please ask more questions. I'm more than happy to help. That's why I'm here, right? Okay, so let's call it a night for now. And I'll stick around for a few more minutes. So if any of you would like to chat one-on-one, tell me about if you've ever tried yoga. Oh, namaste. And what are your experiences like that? Okay? So have a good night. Send me a message if you're up for a few more minutes, and I'll see you next week for lesson 5, conversation 1. Okay? So see you next time. Good night, everyone.